Hello, this is Rebecca again. Today, we're going to look at how to write a conclusion paragraph. Once again, we have our hamburger, but this is the last time that I'm going to show it to you. If you remember, the hamburger represents the essay. We have our introduction paragraph, which is the top. We have the body paragraph 1 and 2, which are the meat of the hamburger or the meat of our essay. And we have our conclusion paragraph. This is the bottom bun of the hamburger. The introduction and the conclusion hold the whole thing together. So today we're going to focus on this conclusion, this last part. The conclusion paragraph signals the end of the essay, and it has two parts. It has a conclusion sentence, which is very similar to the thesis statement, and it has a final comment. So we're going to look at each of these two parts individually. To write a conclusion sentence, we must look back at the thesis statement. Do you remember what 3 pieces of information are required for a thesis statement? Here's some hints for you. 1, 2, and 3. Can you fill those in? Here are the answers. The topic of the essay, the type of essay, and the 2 subtopics for the body paragraphs. The conclusion sentence also needs all of these things, and it needs one more thing. It needs a conclusion phrase at the start of the sentence. Finally, the conclusion sentence must use a different sentence structure than the thesis statement. We can't just use the same words in the same order as we have in the thesis statement. We have to change the order around. So let's look at some examples. Here we have a thesis statement and a concluding sentence side by side. The thesis statement says, "There are 2 important reasons for student success at school, which are their personal motivation and their family support." You can see we have all 3 things that we need. The concluding sentence looks like this. To conclude, personal motivation and family support are the 2 main reasons why students are successful in school. So, do they show the essay type? In the thesis statement, we have reasons for. In the concluding sentence, we have reasons why. So yes, they both show the essay type. Do they show the topic? Yes, the thesis statement shows student success at school. Concluding sentence shows students are successful in school. Notice that because we have reasons for here, we need to use a noun phrase after that. But here, we use reasons why, and so we use a sentence structure. So there's just a little difference in the grammar there. So yes, we have our topic. Do we have the 2 subtopics? Personal motivation, family support. And over here, personal motivation and family support. Both of them include both subtopics. And do we have our conclusion phrase in the concluding sentence? Yes, here we have it. To conclude with a comma. And finally, does the conclusion have a different sentence structure than the thesis statement? Yes, it does. This sentence is in a different order, is using different words than the thesis statement. You can notice that the concluding sentence is starting with the two supporting ideas at the beginning, while the thesis statement has them at the end. Generally, we want them at the end in the thesis statement because that leads directly into the first body paragraph. But starting with the supporting ideas is a good way to write the concluding sentence. Okay, so what other phrases can we use besides to conclude for our conclusion phrase? We can use a couple here that start with in, and these are always nouns: in conclusion, in summary. These ones are to plus a verb: to conclude, to summarize, or to sum up. This is a phrasal verb. So if you get confused about which way to do it because they look very similar, remember that we use in, a noun, to plus a verb. And this is like our infinitive, right? We always say to do something, so it's very easy to remember. And here are a few other forms that we use: all in all, on the whole, on balance, all things considered. We don't want this phrase to be too long. It's nice if it's just 2 or 3 words. That's enough. All of them start the conclusion sentence. They all are followed by a comma. And then after the comma, you're going to use normal sentence structure. Let's look at a few more examples of thesis statements and concluding sentences. A thesis statement: bad family relationships are chiefly caused by financial problems and poor communication. Notice that I have the topic in bold and the subtopics in black, and the essay type is here in yellow. The conclusion sentence version: to sum up, comma, financial problems and poor communication often lead to bad family relationships. So we have all the same information, but we've changed the order and we're using slightly different words. Here's another one. Although some natural causes exist, global warming mainly stems from widespread deforestation and an overuse of fossil fuels. The conclusion version: all in all, comma, global deforestation and our dependence on fossil fuels are the two basic reasons why our planet is warming up. So you can see here that these first two had a lot more vocabulary that was similar, and these two have more variety in the vocabulary that is used, but they are saying the same thing. We have, instead of widespread deforestation, we said global deforestation. Instead of overuse of fossil fuels, we said our dependence on fossil fuels. And here, instead of saying, we said global warming, and here we say our planet is warming up. And the next one: two well-known consequences of sleep deprivation are an impaired ability to think and a weakened immune system. And for the conclusion sentence: in conclusion, foggy thinking and poorer health are two negative effects of sleep deprivation that should be familiar to everyone. So again, we've changed the wording a little bit. An impaired ability to think changes to foggy thinking. A weakened immune system changes to poorer health. And consequences is negative effects. But notice that for all of them, we have a conclusion phrase at the start, and we're starting our conclusion sentence with the two subtopics. And that's one really good way to make sure that it's different from your thesis statement. Okay, let's go on to the second part of the conclusion paragraph, which is your final comment. And you can write this in a few different ways. You can write a suggestion for action. You can write a warning. You can write an expression of concern. And you can write an inspirational message for humanity. Of course, these final comments, they are comments, so they will be opinion type sentences, but we do not want to use the words I, we, or the phrase in my opinion. We still want to try to write it in a more objective style. Also, make sure you don't introduce a new topic in the final comment. We want the final comment to still connect directly back to what was in your body paragraphs, so we don't want to say anything new. Okay, let's look at some examples. So we have a topic. I'm using in conclusion, foggy thinking and poorer health are two negative effects of sleep deprivation. That should be familiar to everyone. By the way, the word deprivation means not having enough of something. So this is the bad effects of not getting enough sleep. And we have not being able to think clearly and having poorer health or a weakened immune system. So let's think about our final comments that we could write about this. And we have these 4 possible ways that we could do it. A suggestion for action. Teachers across our country can educate children about how important it is to get enough sleep. This is saying that you want someone in our community to do something about this problem and what you think that they should do. A suggestion for action. The next one is a warning. If you are regularly sleep deprived, you probably should not drive a car or do other dangerous activities. So this is warning people about what happens if you don't get enough sleep, to be careful. The next one is an expression of concern. This could be personal or for a country or for the world. Sleep deprivation is a serious issue for most adults and teenagers in Turkey, even though most don't realize it. So with this sentence, you're showing concern for the citizens of your country, that you want them to be able to sleep better. And finally, we could think of an inspirational message of some sort. Life can be so much better when you get enough regular sleep. Try it for a month and see how your life improves. Now, obviously, the type of final comment that you write can differ depending on your topic. So you have to think about which one is most suitable for the topic that you are writing about. Also note that any idea that is in your body paragraphs should not be repeated in the final comment. So, for example, if you talked about driving cars as a problem about not getting enough sleep, then this shouldn't be your final comment. You should say something different. So let's look at an introduction and a conclusion paragraph for the same topic. Introduction. In the past 50 years, the world has advanced technologically in amazing ways, and global communication has become incredibly easy. One effect of this is that our world has become globalized, and it is now clear that this is not always beneficial. There are two chief reasons why globalization is problematic, which are disrespect for cultural differences and conflicting interests. Now let's look at the matching conclusion paragraph. To summary, there are two chief reasons why globalization is problematic, which are disrespect for cultural differences and conflicting interests. In my opinion, countries should learn how to get along. What do you think of the conclusion paragraph? Do you like it? Do you not like it? There are 4 problems with this conclusion. So can you remember what we talked about earlier and find what the 4 problems are? You can pause the video if you need to. On the next screen, we will look at them in detail. So here is our conclusion paragraph again, the one that we don't like, the one that has problems in it. So the first one is that the conclusion phrase is wrong, right? Of course, it should be to plus verb or in plus a noun. And in this case, we have to plus a noun. So we want to change that and make it to summarize. The next problem is that the conclusion uses the same sentence as the thesis statement. It was starting from here, there are two chief reasons, all the way to conflicting interests. This was exactly the same sentence as the thesis statement, and we can't do this. It needs to be different. So here, I'm writing it differently. I'm putting the two subtopics at the beginning. To summarize, a lack of respect for cultural differences and conflicting interests have led to many failures with globalization. Okay, so what are our 2 other problems? I said there were 4. The next one is that this phrase, in my opinion, should not be used. Just leave it out. And the last one is that this comment, countries should learn how to get along, is really too general and a little bit off topic because it's not about globalization. This is more about countries arguing, perhaps war. So this final comment is not really related to the topic of the essay. So we can fix it. We can say, for any improvement to happen, global companies must become more sensitive to local cultures. So keep in mind that this final comment can't just be any old sentence that you add at the end of the essay. It really does need to be a warning, a suggestion, something you're concerned about that is directly related to the topic of the essay. This ends the step-by-step lessons on how to write an essay. So if you're still confused about any parts, you can go back and watch those videos again. We had one about writing an introduction. We had one about writing thesis statements. There's one about writing body paragraphs. And then there's this one about writing a conclusion. There are also video lessons on cause-effect conjunctions that are used, the use of so and such for cause and effect, transitioning from writing paragraphs to writing essays, which again shows you the whole structure of an essay, adding information to an essay, and of course there will be others to come. So I hope this has been useful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.